And there are some protocols here. You're welcome to join in the chat. If you use the feature on your computer, you can submit a question and we'll be happy to answer it. We'll take all questions and answer them at the end of the presentation. It's a very short presentation. Again, I'm Jim Gehring, the Fire Chief. I'm joined by our Deputy Fire Chiefs, Deputy Chief Harry Munns and Deputy Chief Jeff Peter. And I'm also joined by our Director of EMS, that's our Emergency Medical Services, Division Chief Chris Scott. We're also joined by our consultants from AP Triton. All right, if we can move to the next slide, please. Well, before I start, I wanted to let everybody know that a video of this presentation will be available on the city's website. All right, so in 2013, the Chula Vista Fire Department implemented the First Responder ALS program, or what is known as FRALS. The FRALS program allows a faster arrival of fire department paramedics, and that allows us to serve our patients with a higher level of care prior to the arrival of the ambulance, which also has one paramedic. The FRALS program has no impact to the general fund. The ambulance transport is provided via contract with a private ambulance company, AMR. We have contracted with AMR for a little over 40 years. We have never gone out for a competitive bid on this contract, and the FRALS program is paid through the contract through fees collected when a patient is transported via an ambulance. Next slide, please. The current EMS transport contract has 3 10% compounding rate increases. The last of the 3 rate increases will take place this October 2020, and our base rate will be $3,881. The contract provides 6 ambulances 24 hours a day and 2 ambulances 12 hours per day. That's throughout the service area, which is Bonita, Imperial Beach, and Chula Vista. We think that we can provide additions and improvements to the service. The fire department evaluated the improvements that should be made to the transport system and placed them into 2 categories: service improvements and cost improvements. Next slide, please. Under service improvements, this includes comprehensive control of the transport system, which includes balanced response times throughout the service area, ability to position ambulances for best performance, increased daily ambulance unit hours and increased capacity, ambulance response that originates within the service area as opposed to other areas such as National City, San Miguel, Spring Valley, Lemon Grove, La Mesa, or San Diego. A unified medical direction and training and continuity of patient care. Next slide, please. Service improvements also include a unified dispatch, which includes reduced dispatch processing time, unified use of radio communications and information technology, safety and accountability of resources, and data access and analysis. And then under cost improvements, reduced base rate costs and minimized fluctuations, the leveraging of federal reimbursements of $3.5 million, and a reinvestment of revenues back into our EMS system. Next slide, please. the fire department conducted an internal fire department analysis. That analysis was validated through external peer review. It was validated by a former assistant chief from Los Angeles County Fire, and also from a fire chief from the San Miguel Fire Protection District. The analysis was also reviewed internally here in the city, and the city hired an independent consultant, AP Triton, for system valuation and optimization. Next slide, please. In January of this year, on January 28th, the council authorized the city manager to engage in all necessary administrative actions to implement fire department-based emergency medical transport services and to begin negotiations for contractual services to the city of Imperial Beach and the Bonita Sunnyside Fire Protection District. Next slide, please. This is generally the slide that most people want to take a look at. This is our 5-year budget and revenue snapshot. I've highlighted the column that starts with fiscal 21 and 22. And I've also highlighted the total revenues of nearly 16,300,000, excuse me, and the total cost of $12.8 million, and a net revenue of $3.4 million, nearly 3.5. Included in the transport costs for all the years are dispatch fees of almost $1 million. Those fees are currently borne on the back of the general fund, and they would be transferred over to the transport system. The net revenues that we see, the 3.486 at the bottom there of the column for FY22, those funds would be used to pay back the startup costs. They would be used to build a reserve for the program, and they would also be used for potential reinvestment for things such as fleet maintenance, fuel, and other vehicle necessities. Next slide, please. Next week on May 12th, we will present to council and we'll be seeking approvals to establish transport base rate of $2,800. Now, a moment ago in one of the slides, we let you know that in October, our transport rate will be $3,881. That's over $1,000 rate decrease for our end users. We'll also ask council to review the term sheets for the City of Imperial Beach and Bonita Fire Protection District agreements. We'll ask council to approve and amend the budget and authorize the full-time employees, and also to approve the capital purchases. Next slide, please. This slide is a summary of some of the benefits for fire department-based ambulance transport. Balanced service delivery and improved response times, improving the service in eastern Chula Vista, unified communications, which reduces call processing times and overall response times, continuity of patient care, where patient care begins with the Chula Vista Fire Department and ends upon arrival to the receiving hospital, increased daily ambulance unit hours and capacity. This includes the addition of 2 24-hour ambulances to the service area. A moment ago, we talked about our current contract provides 6 24-hour units and 2 12-hour units. We would add 2 24-hour ambulances, and also 2 12-hour ambulances. Excuse me.
We already gave them credit for 212.
Okay. So to summarize, we would have 8 24 ambulance units and 2 12-hour units. In addition, ambulance units would respond from within the service area, not from National City or La Mesa or other areas of the county. A unified medical direction and training. All EMTs and paramedics would be under one EMS system and one medical director. And a reduction of the base rate, once again, from $3,881 to $2,800. All right, next slide, please. We're happy to entertain any questions. That's the end of the presentation, and we'll give our our attendees a few minutes to provide questions if you would like to. We'll be happy to answer them. Do we have any questions yet?
No questions yet.
So far, there are no questions.
There was one question posed. Are these non-safety positions?
Yes, these positions are non-safety, non-sworn, non-firefighters, single role, paramedics, and EMTs. Thank you for that question.
Okay, we have another question. What will be the starting salary for a paramedic?
Thank you for that question. Chief Chris Scott will answer that.
The A-step pay for a paramedic will be approximately $57,000 per year. That's included in the overtime that's inherent in the schedule. We do have a 5-step process here where pay goes up over time, so that does go up from there. That is the current pay proposal.
A follow-up to that is great. What is the top step?
Currently, the top step would be approximately $68,000, but there are built-in mandatory pay increases from the state as part of the minimum wage regulations. So that will actually go up over the next 2 consecutive years based on state mandated increases to pay.
Okay, and we have another one. Where will the ambulances be based?
Do you want to talk about where they're going to be?
Yeah, this is Deputy Chief Harry Munns. The ambulances will be based out of fire stations, in particular, obviously Chula Vista fire stations, and then also the Bonita Fire Protection District, as well as the Imperial Beach Fire Station.
Okay, and are there any projected positive or negative impacts on Measure A funds with this change?
All right, thank you for the question. Are there any positive or negative impacts to Measure A? No, these are two standalone funds, and neither one does not impact the other.
Okay, and I have on a different topic, when do we expect the new fire stations to be up and running?
Deputy Chief Jeff Peter will answer that question.
Hi, this is Jeff Peters. So the Millennia Fire Station, our Fire Station 10, will be operational May 22nd of 2020. Our two relocated and remodeled fire stations, Fire Station 5 and Fire Station 9, will open in the spring of 2021. Station 5 is projected to be April of 2021, and new Station 9 should be May of 2021. And again, those are just relocated stations with existing personnel.
Those are all the questions as of this moment. Spoke too fast. Is the intent of the ambulance positions to be a proving ground or to groom firefighters?
So the intent of the ambulance positions are to transport medical patients. That's our number one goal for this system, and that's our number one priority. It is inherent that with a workforce that's doing that job, working hand in hand with first responders or firefighters on fire apparatus, that there definitely is a nexus and the ability to see the performance of EMTs and paramedics working on the ambulance that may be interested in the fire service. So it definitely could be a view into whether EMTs and paramedics want to make the transition to being a firefighter and see what that work is really like by being offered or be working in the same fire stations and running 911 calls with them.
There are no additional questions at this time. Oh, again, sorry. I have another question. What is the timeline for this change? When is contract up? What is the transition timeline from the private operator to the city? Also, will you maintain current workforce, and where would new employees come from if not retained?
It's a program for the transition to take place in April of 21, and we would give notice to our current provider 6 months in advance of the transition. And then it's anticipated that our recruitment will begin sometime this summer, June perhaps, and the field is open for all applicants, and applicants who could be employed in the current system or from elsewhere.
Okay, and will there be any restrictions on where the new ambulances will be transporting to? For instance, if I want to go to Kaiser, will the Chula Vista ambulance allow that?
This is Chief Scott, and no, there will be no restrictions. Our firm belief is that people should get to their normal medical home when they need to, or to a specific resource such as trauma, pediatrics, et cetera. So there will be no restriction to only transport only in the city of Chula Vista. It is the appropriate destination.
Okay, and do you know what percentage of responses by fire crews are for fire and what percentage is for medical emergencies?
Yeah, currently, per our dispatch data, approximately 10% of our calls for service are fire-related calls, with the other approximately 80% being medical and some additional miscellaneous that fill in the gaps to make up a full 100%.
Okay, is there a lame duck provision in current contract to avoid issues when transition is approved?
Yeah, this is Chief Peter. Yeah, we're honestly not concerned about that. Our current provider provides good care, and we are comfortable that our current provider, as new as our system, will always maintain patient care as the #1 priority, regardless of contract expiration or not. And we continue to monitor all our transports with quality assurance reviews. And so if there were any issues, just like today, we're aware of those and we address those on a routine basis if warranted.
Will fire engines go out with ambulances?
That model will still stay in place. It's the one that's being exercised as we speak. Specifically on this topic is the EMS system as a whole relies on first responders and ambulances to take a medical patient from where they're at to the proper care, i.e. the emergency department. So that model will still stay in place.
I think I'd like to add to that. It's important to recognize why a fire engine responds with an ambulance. And I think to answer that question properly, we have to go back in time and look back in history. The question today is, why is that fire engine going to the medical calls? And what occurred in the 60s and the 70s in the fire service was California fire chiefs began to talk amongst themselves, and they wanted to know how they could improve EMS. And the question that they asked themselves was, why aren't fire engines responding to that medical call? The fire service had the resources, they can provide the training, they have the vehicles, they are stationed in their firehouses strategically throughout the cities and counties. And fire chiefs began to say, we're going to train our firefighters and we're going to get to patients who need emergency care immediately so they don't have to wait for an ambulance. And so I think the question is fair, and I think the answer to the question actually occurred years and years ago, 40, 50 years ago. So the question really is, why aren't we responding? And the fire service has answered that loud and clear. We do respond.
The next question we have is, what kind of experience are you looking for possible future hires?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question again, please?
Yes, the question is, what kind of experience are you looking for possible future hires?
Well, they've got to have an EMT yet.
Yeah, this is Jeff Peter. So in terms of medical experience, really it can be anything. It can be currently practicing EMT who's worked on a private ambulance or a fire department-based ambulance. It could be an EMT that's worked in an emergency room or has other medical experience. Same thing on the paramedic side of the house, either pre-hospital or emergency department experience. But really more than anything, what we're really looking for is great character in our employees and employees that are invested in really wanting to work for the city. So we're looking at integrity, honesty, values, and just core character of the individuals, because we need to make an investment in a great employees to serve our public and take care of them in a time of need.
The next question we have is, being so close to the southern portion of San Diego, how will mutual aid work for San Ysidro and related neighborhoods? Has an increased need in this are possibly been factored in since they're separated from City of San Diego?
It definitely has been accounted for with our system design. However, our system design is mainly focused on serving our service territories of Chula Vista, Imperial Beach, and Bonita Sunnyside Fire Protection District. We definitely need to have mutual aid agreements in place from neighboring jurisdictions to ensure that we ourselves can be covered when we have a peak volume of calls. And likewise, we would share resources if possible, going back the other way. This part is a ongoing common practice in the industry, and we fully intend to establish those agreements.
As of right now, there are no additional questions.
Okay, thank you. Those are all very good questions. We appreciate that. We'll wait another 2 or 3 minutes to give you time, and then we'll come back on, and if we don't have any questions, we'll go ahead and end the session.
We have one more question that has come in. Will probationary firefighters work on the ambulance?
The system design for the ambulance service is non-safety or non-sworn personnel. So that is not part of the design of the system to have firefighters working on the ambulances.
Okay, we have another question. Since firefighters are also paramedics, wouldn't it be cheaper to use the firefighter paramedic on the ambulance instead of hiring another paramedic?
The pay scales of a firefighter paramedic versus a non-sworn paramedic are, yeah, they're definitely not the same. A firefighter paramedic is more expensive than a non-sworn paramedic. So to answer the question, it would not actually be cheaper to have a firefighter paramedic working on the ambulance than a non-sworn paramedic.
Okay, a follow-up to that is, but won't the firefighter paramedic going anyway, since the fire engine will be going with the ambulance?
So to answer that, the answer is no. The only time the fire engine and or fire medic will go with the patient is if they're a trauma patient that requires additional personnel in the back of the ambulance for the transport to ensure the safety of the patient and to perform all the procedures that need to be done. However, the atypical medical patient transport would be done with just the non-sworn EMT and non-sworn paramedic transporting. And the benefits to this type of model is that the ambulance is now has a medical patient and they're unavailable for calls. Meanwhile, the fire medic returns back to the fire apparatus, and now the fire apparatus is available for the next call, which as the city continues to grow, our call volume continues to grow, these back-to-back calls become more prevalent, which makes it difficult for us to make response times. So this type of system of having a first responder and an ambulance crew separate from one another is what allows us to have that redundancy and the ability to respond to additional medical patients in need.
Okay, another question. Will there be part-time opportunities?
So as far as part-time opportunities, the way the system is built is it's built off of full-time employees. However, we are aware that there may be a workforce that desires part-time work, and that is definitely on our radar. We're definitely willing to discuss it and talk about it. However, our preference, I guess at this point, and preference may even be a strong word, is to have full-time employees. That's what's in the budget. However, we want to be accommodating to the workforce because we understand other priorities for them may be important.
We don't have any outstanding questions as of this time.
Christina, new ones just came in.
Okay, will these new EMTs continue to be represented by the current association?
So I don't mean to be presumptive on the question, but if the question is related to will the new city employees be represented by the union of our current contractor, AMR, that would not be the case. It would be a city-based labor group that would represent these employees.
We received a comment from an AMR representative saying, please know that AMR is proud to serve the people of Chula Vista for nearly 40 years and will continue to deliver quality ambulance service as the city moves forward in the process. And another question, would it be the International Firefighter Union?
So for the non-sworn EMT and paramedics, that appears to be the labor group that would represent these employees. However, they do not have the same pay and benefits as sworn employees of i.e. firefighters of the International Association of Firefighters.
And a follow-up is not to start, but wouldn't they be negotiating to change that?
Related to that?
I can't comment on what the IFF would try to negotiate. However, just want to reinforce the system design is based off of what's being proposed and implemented as we speak, and what we're taking to council. And that is a separate pay and benefit package that is specific to non-sworn EMT and non-sworn paramedics. So Christina, I see the next question is what kind of benefits would EMS personnel be able to get? And at this point, this is still being worked on with our HR department and the appropriate labor groups to determine those benefit packages. However, all of those bargaining units, MOUs or pay and benefit packages are listed on the city's website, which you can find under the HR department. And I see the next question of how would retirement be handled? Again, this would be through the memorandum of understanding with the specific labor group, and those packages can be found on the city's website on the HR page. And just to confirm that these are non-sworn personnel, so they would not be a safety retirement. And just also to reemphasize that all of these costs would be part of the system that has been built, and therefore the transport rate, that produces the revenue that covers the costs are all part of the system design, which we found to be sustainable and sufficient.
And the next question, would they be in CalPERS?
Yes, and I don't mean to speak directly for our HR department, but it is my understanding that city employees, the city is a CalPERS entity, and therefore the retirement would be CalPERS.
Okay, would these ambulance contracts to also do inter-hospital transport or dedicated just to emergency response?
No, this system is designed for 911 responses and not for interfacility transports.
Okay, will 12
We have another question.
follow the same schedule as the squads?
So the 12-hour ambulances will, I see the reference to our fire department-based squads with firefighters on them. So we definitely can't say that it's an exact match for the squads. However, the 12-hour ambulances are going to be focused on peak volumes and be commensurate with that. And we'll do dynamic analysis for that and determine when the start and end period is for those ambulances.
I don't have anything outstanding in the Q&A or in chat as of this moment.
Okay, I think we can wrap up. On behalf of our Chula Vista Fire Department, we want to thank all the attendees, and we certainly want to thank you for your insightful questions. And we thank you for your interest and your support of our fire department-based ambulance transport system. Please be safe. If you need anything, please, as always, you let us know. Have a good night.